Hey Matej, how's it going? Thanks for sending in a new version. It was looking cool. Let's take a look at it. Nice. So yeah, I think you've done a really good job of taking those notes from last time. Poses are feeling a lot stronger. Let's dig into a few of these notes that I had. Don't worry about this. This is more of a timing thing. So the first thing was, I think this first long pose here, this bit is like a really nice pose, and I'd love to hold it for a little bit longer. It kind of gets lost in the movement a little bit, so I'd love to see that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these notes. I don't have too many before you go into spline, so I'm going to go through these notes, and then I'm going to go into your scene and do some retiming and do some fixes to show you how I'd approach them. Here's like a ginormous spacing, so in spline, when we get into a little bit more, it'd be awesome to start adding like sword slash effects and type stuff. You see a lot in gameplay tests, like a trail. So you can just create a plane and have the plane the same color as the sword and have it drag behind for like a frame, just to cover that kind of huge distance. Basically, this is effectively like a smear frame in cartoony animation. But that's something we can get into a bit later on, just something to think of. I think you can probably hold here a little bit longer as well. So you do your swipe. So maybe you do swipe, swipe. Maybe the second swipe is faster, so we break up that rhythm. So it's like swipe, swipe, hold, and then we get back, you know. So we're trying to find ways of it not being swipe, swipe, swipe. So obviously in real life, it is a bit more repetitive, but for gameplay purposes and for making the rhythm more interesting, I think there can be some stuff pushed. We're just going to take the exact same poses you've already got and tighten up the spacing, the timing, move the poses close together. So I'll show you that in a second. Cool. So there's a few bits in here where I feel like the body feels a bit detached, like the upper body just does this huge swing. It happens twice. It happens here as well a little bit, although here's a bit better. I think maybe this works pretty well for me. So it's mostly this one. So my suggestion is that on your breakdown, you just have the body already starting to bias in the Z towards the next pose. Also helps with that feeling of the body leading and the sword coming behind, which is going to give it a lot of weight and power. So yeah, definitely put that in there. And then the other major note is I think you just need another breakdown in here, your weight coming off, and you want to make that head spacing a bit better coming in. At the moment it's a bit forward and back. So if it was just one kind of clean arc as it comes up and settles back, all connected in the body, I think that would be good. So I think, yeah, another breakdown and some bits. So there you go. There's not too many notes, so it won't take too long to do this. But then the next thing would be going into spline. So I'm gonna have a go at retiming this to show kind of how I would approach it. So what I've got is I've got a hotkey and animbot, which adds an in between or takes away an in between. I think I've shown you this before. If I haven't, I've got it set to a hotkey, but you can also find it in here. It's one of these. It's insert in between this one. So whatever number is in here, if you press this, it will add that amount of frames into the gap between two poses, right? So let's do that. So I want to add some time to this pose. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. See how that feels. Cool. I think that's pretty good. One more quick note whilst we're here. I think that the weight could start to progress a little bit more back on this key, just so that the head doesn't have to come quite as far forward and can have one clean kind of over arc. It feels a little bit better to me. Another note whilst we're here, I think this back arm here is feeling a little bit too back and forth. So it kind of opens up wide and then it comes back to join this side. I think instead I would just make this like a breakdown maybe. Whoops. Let's undo what I just did. So I would maybe just keep it in the same sort of zone, ready to start to come round and grab. I think that's going to feel a bit less distracting. Still a little bit stiff in there, and I don't really like using IK where possible, but it's fine for now. It's fine to get you posing in. Yeah. So that feels a little bit less distracting now, and I think that weight, just by moving it over a little bit, is going to help. And then the other bit is how that body swinging, I think, feels a little bit too isolated. So it feels like it does a little bit too much on its own. So I'm going to start getting there a little bit. I'm just going to use blend to neighbors with Anibots. Hold down shift on this and I can blend it a little bit towards the next pose. So I just want it to be a bit less isolated. I want it to have that change happening over this transition a little bit more. Maybe we can start it here a little bit more as well. Maybe that headspace could not have to travel quite as far forward as it does currently. So I'm just going to fiddle with that for now. Cool. That feels a little bit better to me. And that timing now feels a bit better. Cool. So the next thing I want to do, I think that first slash is good, but I think the second slash is maybe a bit slow. So let's maybe take out 2 frames in this hold. Boom, boom. So maybe we can take out a little bit more in here as well. Maybe a frame. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Cool. I think that's a bit better. I wonder if maybe I'll take out 1 frame in here. Boom, boom. Cool. So we got like this nice break now where you have a slightly more lumbrous one and then quite a quick one for like the backslash. But now I think we're probably not holding this pose for long enough now. So let's just hold this for a bit longer. So I'm going to add 2, 3, 4. I don't know. So maybe 4 is a little bit too low. Let's try 5. Cool, it's feeling better. Boom, boom. Cool. Let's have a look at this because this again is that isolated body stuff I talked about. So maybe I'm just going to make this like a tween machine to the next pose. I like that you're dragging it, so maybe I'll try and lead with the lower body whilst the upper body's dragging behind a little bit more. Looking at this rotation axis, just check that the arc is kind of making sense as it comes around. So it feels, I think the other thing that feels a bit weird about it is it feels a bit delayed. Like the swing starts here, but it takes a long time to get to here. So maybe I'm going to take a frame out here. Maybe 1 more frame out. I think that feels a bit better. So a little bit of retiming just made the momentum feel a little bit more consistent, which I think is what we needed right there. Cool, I think the next pose I think could add a bit more hold is kind of this one here. So I'm going to add 3 frames. Let's see how that feels. Vroom, 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 vroom. Cool, I think that's a bit better. So maybe 1 more frame. So it's a bit of a feeling out process. It's a difficult thing timing to teach because it's a lot of feeling out and it's a lot of kind of sensing for yourself. But the main things is I'm just trying to make it feel like everything reads and everything isn't even in its spacing. So it isn't like that first 2 slashes, they were doing it about the same speed. So it was fun to do like 1 and then a quick one back. So then on the back way, maybe there's a way to do something similar. Or we do the opposite where maybe we do the first one faster through here. So maybe we could try that. So maybe we can remove a frame, move a frame, move a frame. Maybe remove a frame in there. This feels pretty good. Cool, yeah, that's feeling pretty good to me. Maybe we could add a bit more time in here, and then I think we need that extra breakdown that we already talked about, so. Got slash slash. Yeah, that timing's feeling better to me for sure. So now the next thing I want to do is add a breakdown. So you have this one coming out, so maybe I'll move this a few frames earlier. Maybe, or maybe we'll just add maybe 2 frames earlier, we'll see. So maybe not, maybe I like the length of that hold. I want to keep that hold. So instead I'm just going to add maybe 3 frames in the middle here. And then during that, I want to kind of get that ease out so that it reads, because right now we're doing a big transition here without enough breakdowns, I think. So let's just go in here. I'm going to probably bias the first pose a little bit. Maybe grab the leg and snap it back. So it's just tween machine back to the previous pose. We can grab it and maybe have it roll off the toe a little bit more. Make the arc go under. And maybe lead with the body. The arms. Which arm is leading it? That's the shoulder, I think. So it's this one. Cool. So we can have those arms coming around. Starting to come around, but it's heavy, obviously, so that's going to be delayed. Whilst the body kind of leads. Get that nice reversal in there. So kind of arcs under and scoops up. I think that's cool. Maybe the head can follow with that as well. Cool. Shoulder looks a bit broken right now, so I'm going to use that chest and rotate it. There you go. Keep those arms kind of less broken. So yeah, that extra breakdown in there. Yeah, that helps that step through read a lot more right now. So it's just an ease out breakdown. And if you wanted to go super with it, you could add in this anim to drag it behind. But you know, we're not going crazy on the secondary stuff yet. You want to, you know, it's nice that you've got these poses in here because now you can kind of build around them, and it helps the readability of everything. But that's something definitely to get to kind of as a secondary thing, since it's just following. It's good to do that stuff kind of last. Getting in base poses like this was great, so it was great that you did it. Let me just save over this version. So if I press save, we can keep your old version. Boom, 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 boom. Step through. Cool. So now let's look at this headspace at the end. I'm going to grab the cog. So yeah, the head gets a bit stuck in here. And I wonder if maybe there's something we can do about that. Head's a bit broken in here. I'm just going to make sure it scoops forward. Yeah, so the head here, as you can see from the front view, it like hits the side and then comes across. So we want the head to be a bit cleaner, I think. We're going to keep that head mostly traveling this way. Maybe we can have the weight go over a bit more. So it's just me on the fly trying to figure out how I'd improve this, so it might take a second. Feels a little bit better to me like that. Let's see how it looks from the front. So I think maybe on our way back we can have a little bit more of a settle from the side to side. Little under arc. Yeah, that feels better. That feels like a more weighty step now. Cool. Yeah, I think that feels a bit better with the head spacing. Feels like it's kind of has that weight on that step forward, and then on the little step back, the weight goes back. It feels a bit more contained. Maybe there's a little bit with the head, feeling a little bit jittery in here. Where, yeah, the head goes back and forth in probably one of the Zs. It's probably one of these. Maybe it's the head itself. Maybe it's the chest. Looks like it's the chest, yeah. A tiny bit's fine. Cool. So that cleaned up kind of the majority of the notes I had. As you can see, hopefully you can see how I kind of approached doing those. So at this stage, I think it's in a pretty good spot to take into spline, or just to keep adding more breakdowns. That's kind of depending on how you prefer to work. If you prefer to work with curves, or you prefer to work with just kind of the main mass of the character and blocking it out. Let's turn on this guy. But yeah, I think it's really getting there. Maybe the sword takes a little bit too long to touch the shoulder here. Maybe another breakdown in here would help that. So I'll just add an ease in. Where maybe the sword stuff, if this is the wrists, maybe we get the sword kind of mostly contact in there already on this frame. Maybe we can overshoot a little bit. I just scaled it up. So maybe the overshoot is a little bit much, so I'm going to blend to neighbor to the final pose. Just a little bit of something, adds a nice little bit of texture in there. Cool, maybe you could do some fun stuff with the chest, so let's try that out. Keep that forward, straighten it out, keep it straight. Just have that chest countering to take the weight of the sword. But maybe I'm overdoing it a little bit. I'm just looking at this rotate X now. Anyway, yeah, those would be the main things. But I think, as I say, I just did all of those notes in 20 minutes, half an hour. And I think once you get to this stage with your own shot, it's going to be in a good spot to kind of go to the next stage, which would be spline, or maybe it's more steps, more blocking, because maybe you've got some issues with Euler filter, whatever it's called. Let's take a look, shall we? So what I'd do before hitting spline anytime is I would hit it with a Euler filter. As you can see, it fixed some curves. That means that there was probably some Euler issues. And then to hit auto, we'll see how it's looking. Yeah, so once we get to spline, there's going to be a bunch of stuff to figure out. Whoa, hands went crazy. Is that the Euler, maybe. Yeah, so there's probably a bunch of stuff to figure out once you get into spline. Oh, it looks like there's a pose at the end, which is probably causing some... Oh, okay, if you wanted to go back into an idle, I guess. But yeah, I imagine maybe you've got some other hidden controls or some setups going. So I'll leave it to you to try and figure out at least the initial spline. But this is feeling solid to me. So if you can just maintain kind of what you had, keep adding breakdowns, go to spline when things are kind of ready for it. I wonder about this. Maybe this step works. It's the awkward part about sword things is you always want to try and keep the edge of the sword visible. Okay, so that's where it went. So what was happening there, it was kind of getting lost a little bit. I just wanted the silhouette to be visible, so that was just a quick note at the end here, just so we can see it. And maybe we can delay the body a bit more. Maybe it's the hips getting in the way. It works in motion, I think. I think that's probably fine. Cool. I'll stop fiddling with small things, because I think those bigger notes are the important things, and I think once you get those, you'll be in a good spot. So yeah, best luck, man. I think think it's coming along really well. I think you've really pushed those poses and it's looking a lot stronger now. And those leads with the body leading really helps sell the speed and strength of the swipes. So now doing a bit of that retiming that I've done, I think is really going to tie things down. And then from there, it's just kind of getting into spline, cleaning things up, polishing the rest of it. Because the main idea is there now. I think this is looking solid. So it's really just all the fine details and kind of making it work on ones and spline. So yeah, best luck. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.